Today, the church celebrates All Saints. It's November 1st, and it's customary to celebrate this feast, All Saints. When I was growing up as a little boy, I used to hear about saints, and I never imagined that saints were human beings. I used to think that saints were just from the heavens. They didn't exist. So when we talked about saints then, it was for me some abstract concept. Those who were not born, they just came in and they are somewhere. That's my mentality then. But as I kept growing up and started hearing about this feast, All Saints, and learning about it, I came to understand that the All Saints feast invite us to appreciate the gift of God to humanity. All saints, they are those who lived like us, those who died, those who struggled, those who walked on their weaknesses, those who looked upon God while they struggled, those who made good use of God's grace in their lives. That is the Feast of All Saints. Today, they belong to the triumphant church in heaven. They stand before God as privileged by His grace. They represent God's greatness in humanity. God is that great artist, and in the sense, we see the beauty of God's creation. St. Paul says His grace is sufficient. That is what All Saints celebrate, the grace of God sufficient in the lives of our brothers and sisters, our friends, our relatives who have gone before us, but who lived according to the invitation in the commandments. They now give us hope. They give us inspiration. They intercede for us. And they come from all parts of the world. The book of Revelation says, I see this vision, the vision which constitutes a great multitude, which no one can count, from every nation, from every race, from every people, from every tongue. What are they doing? It says, they stand before the throne and before the Lamb, wearing white robes, signifying purity, holding palm branches, signifying peace in their hands. And what they do is marvelous, amazing. They cry out in a loud voice, salvation comes from our God, who is seated on the throne, and from the Lamb. And they sing and worship God and exclaimed, Amen, blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving, honor, power and might be to our God forever and ever. That is what the saints do. They glorify God. They sing before God. They worship God in heaven. They adore God. Why wouldn't I want to be sent? Why would you not want to be a saint? Christ calls our attention on what we can do in the Beatitudes today, in the Gospel. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they who mourn. They will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the land. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they will have mercy shown them. Blessed are the clean of heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are they who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness. Theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when they insult you and persecute you and utter every kind of evil against you falsely because of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven. Amazing. So, this is what makes sainthood. Christ invites us today to understand that we can become saints, the life of blessedness. Blessedness, the Beatitude gives us hope. The Beatitude connects us to the ways and means of making heaven, of becoming saints. Christ goes up on the mountain to teach this. This particular Sermon on the Mount reminds us of what happened in the experience of the Israelites. Moses, in Exodus chapter 19, came to Mount Sinai, and the Israelites were at the foot of the mountain. God handed the Decalogue, and there the Israelites professed. They said, whatever the Lord our God says, that we shall do. So Christ is the new Moses. He goes up on the mountain and ushers in New Israel and gives New Israel the code to living out the covenant, which is the Beatitudes. And the Beatitudes bring us to the awareness of how we can measure our spirituality. The contents of the Beatitude are tough. They look tough. But the key is God's grace. Christ invites us to that awareness of the spiritual life, that we can do it through Christ, that we can make saints. Some of us are named after saints. For instance, I'm named after Vincent de Paul. You might be named after another saint. These saints become models, role models for us. Those who are not named after the saints, today becomes also an opportunity for you to read about the life of a saint and see how you can model your life on that saint. The saints had their struggles. The saints struggled with their weaknesses. They had challenges as human beings. But what happened is they understood the meaning of perseverance, the meaning of persistence, the meaning of patience, the meaning of mercy. They understood the meaning of peace. They understood the meaning of thirsting for righteousness' sake. They understood that persecution does not hinder us from making heaven. Think about saints like Augustine. Augustine had his struggles. On a scale of 1 to 10, Augustine was probably at 1 or even minus. Someone like St. Ignatius of Loyola had his struggle. On a scale of 1 to 10, was probably at a 1. But eventually, they recognized that God's grace is sufficient in our lives. I want to tell you today to pick up a saint and possibly study that saint and see what you could do to make heaven. You cannot make heaven if you give up. You cannot make heaven if you don't have hope. You cannot make heaven by a nasty way of life. Wickedness cannot make heaven. Hatred cannot make heaven. Greed cannot make heaven. Avarice cannot make heaven. Lies and insincerity cannot make heaven. Obstinacy in sin cannot make heaven. What makes heaven is blessedness. Christ invites us today to look up to God and ask for his grace. If you have not been doing so well in your spiritual life, you know it, you feel it. All Saints tells you that you can adjust. If you are on the path to goodness, sincerity, justice, mercy, peace, then All Saints becomes an inspiration to do more. But remember, it's God's grace that we need. Let us pray for the intercession of the saints today, that they keep praying for us, that our struggles might not be in vain, but that at the end of time, we will unite with them, and our joy, our ultimate joy, will be to stand before God, to worship God eternally, and to exclaim, Amen, blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving, honor, power, and might be to God forever and ever. Amen. God bless you, and happy All Saints.